Hey everybody, this is Decepticon Doug here, and we are going to talk about some movies that I saw in 2019. Honestly, I just didn't see that many movies in 2019, so there's lots of ones that were very popular that I didn't get a chance to watch. So yeah, your favorite movie might not be in here. That's on me. I love to watch movies, but I just didn't have a lot of time and money and all that kind of stuff. I decided not to make a top 10 because I kind of went through the list of movies that I saw through the year, and there were only like 13 that I would really put on a favorites list. So I was like, I could cut out 3. Why bother? I could just make it a list of 13. This list is in no particular order. You know, it's not like a number 1 isn't number 1. This is just 13 films I liked. Actually, I put it in alphabetical order, so there you go. Now you know for sure that there's no preferential treatment. So without further ado, let's just get into the list. 13 movies that I liked that you should also see that are from the year 2019.
Number 13, Elita, Battle Angel. Elita Battle Angel is a perfectly imperfect movie that sure packs a lot of story in a feature film's time. This is a surprise collaboration between producer James Cameron and director Robert Rodriguez, delivering a sci-fi visual treat for all ages. Well, maybe not like little ages, but most ages, bringing us a fun, super ninja robot lady who needs to find herself story. Adapted from a manga and featuring mostly great performances from a collection of skilled actors, but most of all from Rosa Salazar, who plays the titular character. We did already review it on this channel, but I found this film to be overlooked and underappreciated because I find it to be funny, exciting, and hella ambitious. I really hope this is going to be one of those box office flops turned cult classic because I honestly think it should be seen by more people. Number 12, The Art of Self-Defense. One of the strangest movie-going experiences of my year was The Art of Self-Defense, starring Jesse Eisenberg, who plays an extra nervous Jesse Eisenberg-type character, but with enough subtle nuance that he's not in caricature territory. This film really isn't for everyone, since there's some surprisingly gruesome moments and it's got a really odd tone, but also the subject matter is really deep and uncomfortable, serving as an allegory for toxic masculinity and the cycle of abuse. It's a very strange world that these characters occupy, where people more or less say outright what's on their mind, and workplace gossip isn't really hush-hush, but just said outright in the break room. It's a unique, uncomfortable, dark comedy with some great twists and turns. It's a real treat for people who like that kind of dark humor, or just indie films in general. That's my bag, so I was totally on board. Number 11, Avengers Endgame. What do I need to tell you? You're one of 2 people. You've either seen it and all the movies leading up to it, or you don't care about Marvel movies, and so starting at this one is a ridiculous idea, so you probably won't see it. I was considering not even putting it in this list because, come on, who needs to be told to see Avengers Endgame? But here we are, and here it is, so now we can all just lay off the keyboards, okay? Number 10, Booksmart. You want to talk about underappreciated? Booksmart is a viciously hilarious teen comedy, perfect for the modern generation, serving as a femme-driven superbad for the modern age. Brash, crass, and also filled with heart and sincerity, it definitely dances a fine line, takes the jump, and sticks the landing. Though its rating says it's for adults, honestly, older teens should watch it because I do believe it has something to say to this generation about digging deeper to find the truth about people. Hopefully, these 2 leading ladies and director Olivia Wilde were able to use this as a launching point for more great projects in the future. Number 9, The Farewell. The Farewell follows a Chinese family in the States who receive word that their grandmother back in China has fallen terminally ill, and rather than in the Western world, where they have to tell the person their prognosis, the burden is left to the family to decide to tell or not to tell, and they chose the traditional route of keeping her in the dark and taking on the burden of grief themselves, as she lives the remainder of her days in blissful ignorance. So the family all comes to visit under the guise that the cousin is getting married, so everyone is there to celebrate a fake wedding when it's actually a chance to say goodbye to the grandmother. What I love about this film is how it shows what it's like when cultures clash, seen through the eyes of Billy, played by Awkwafina, who is completely American, so she is struggling to come to terms with her family's choice because it seems so backwards to her Western sensibilities. This is the kind of fascinating stuff that I love about movies because it doesn't force you to take one side or another, but just explores these different points of view, told through an Asian American protagonist, the only person who really could work as the protagonist. It's a really personal, deeply emotional piece of cinema, and I highly recommend it to anyone. Number 8, Fighting with My Family. What a great year to be Florence Pugh, who apparently is now on the A-list, and for good reason. Definitely an amazing breakout year, and this is where I first took notice. Fighting with My Family is a relatively unambitious story about a family who loves professional wrestling and is pursuing it to get into the WWE and go pro. And that opportunity opens when Saraya and Jack, two siblings, get into the tryouts, but only one of them gets to go pro, thus the title. Sometimes a straightforward story is all you need, as long as you do the best you can with the material, and writer-director Stephen Merchant, of various Ricky Gervais projects, does just that. The movie has a lot of great humor, a very relatable human story to tell, and while I've seen this type of movie before, I've never seen it with the WWE as a backdrop. It's a crowd pleaser and sure to put a smile on your face, so check it out. Number 7. Godzilla, King of the Monsters. I love me some movies about giant monsters smashing up cities, and Godzilla, King of the Monsters delivers on that. Rest in peace, Boston. I didn't mind the 2014 Godzilla either, to be clear, but this one definitely addresses the main issue that people had with that one, which was, why is there not more kaiju action? So, now we see more legends like Mothra and King Ghidorah and Rodan break out in a larger-than-life brawl of epic proportions. Look, it's a Godzilla movie, so if I need to sell you on it, this one might not be for you, but if kaiju is your bag, this movie delivers. Number 6. Jojo Rabbit. Jojo Rabbit is a heartwarming tale about a young Hitler youth and his imaginary friend Adolf, who goes on wacky misadventures to help the Third Reich win the Second World War. Well, not exactly, but when can I ever come close to saying that again in my life? Poor young Jojo is indeed a Hitler youth, and is trying desperately to fit in and do what his country says is right, but the war is coming to a close and things aren't looking so great for Germany. Plus, the other young Nazis are picking on him because of his small stature, and it turns out being trained into a Nazi doesn't work toward building you into a kinder person. The goals that once inspired Jojo become ever more unclear, as it turns out his mother may be hiding a young Jewish girl in the walls of their home. Honestly, it's a little hard to put into words, but writer-director Taika Waititi really does a great job of dancing that line between uncomfortable and hilarious, while also exploring the ideas of redeeming young people caught up in dark ideologies. And given the shit show that is currently this political landscape today, this film is actually pretty poignant, relevant, and important to read into, so check it out. Number 5. Knives Out. Because every mention of a modern Star Wars movie invites toxic discussions, I just don't want to go down that road. Not yet, anyway. But that movie aside, I've actually been a big Rian Johnson fan since his debut Brick back in 2005, and we honestly need more filmmakers like him to make original films that are a product of a true auteur. Knives Out is what this industry really needs right now. A movie with a fairly modest budget and a cast of such incredible actors that no single one can really stand out from the pack. It's got a great visual style, and Johnson really does have a knack for dialogue. So regardless of what you thought of The Last Jedi, a successful blockbuster brings you access to a cast of this caliber. And you know what? They win too, because sometimes actors want to break from the big action films and do some like real actors acting. You know, like a bunch of people in a room working with each other. I love this film, and I love that it was a hit. And it was made in a time when studios don't want to bother with stuff like this and take any risks. So check out Knives Out. Let's see some more. Number 4. Midsommar. No other film this year shook me to my core like Midsommar did. While technically a horror film, it is very unconventional that it spares you of jump scares and overindulgent gore tactics, but rather it terrifies you in retrospect when the overall chain of events forces you to reflect on the film. And reflect you will. I could not shake this movie for days after I saw it. I thought about it when I was at work, while I was eating, and dreamt about it for several nights. This is a fascinating dissection of grief, lies, complacency, cults, and brainwashing. I didn't see Ari Aster's breakout feature Hereditary, and now I'm kind of regretting it. As uncomfortable as Midsommar is while watching, you will start to respect the craftsmanship of the film the longer you sit on it. I don't want to spoil anything, but I do want to highlight the opening scene, which is probably the darkest and most upsetting slice of cinema I've seen in maybe ever. Florence Pugh, see, her again, breakout year, telling you, gives a wholly visceral performance, and the score sends chills right down your spine. This is great filmmaking, but not for the faint of heart. Number 3, Parasite. You know, I'm not even really sure what kind of movie Parasite is. I invited a friend of mine to come out and see it, and he was reluctant to because he didn't do well with horror movies. But this isn't really a horror movie. It's got some tense scenes, but it's not horrific in concept or execution. It made me laugh, but I also wouldn't call it a comedy because it's not really. Is it a dark comedy? Maybe, but it somewhat plays out like a tragedy too. It's how it defies genres and expectations that really sets the film apart. It's a concoction of things that may not have worked under other directors, but works great under Bong Joon-ho's leadership. I liked his work on The Host and Snowpiercer a bit better, but those are more my kind of genres. But this one is more down to earth and explores similar themes to those films, like family and classism. It is very good, be sure not to miss it. Number 2, Shazam. It's no secret that DC movies of late have been inconsistent, we'll say. While Marvel paints its films with a very refined but consistent brush, the DC movies vary so much in tone and quality that you really have to wonder how these characters even occupy the same universe. Well, lately they've been on an upward swing, and possibly the best DC film of the bunch so far, maybe tied with Wonder Woman, is Shazam. A character that traditionally I know very little about and honestly could even care less about. But much like how Marvel movies somehow got me to like Thor, DC somehow got me really liking Shazam. But that's because they keep the very core concept of the character the same, but give it a real-world, modern facelift. Like, what if a young team suddenly became an adult who was jacked and had superpowers? It would probably play out something like this. It's legitimately hilarious, heartfelt, and exciting, and unlike the other superhero movies on this list, you may have skipped out on this one given its box office. And so, hey, time to catch up. It's a great time. Number 1, Spider-Man Far From Home. Unlike Shazam, I'm a longtime Spider-Man fan. Like, he was the superhero I grew up wanting to be, without wishing any ill will against my uncles. I wasn't super excited when it was announced that there was going to be a new Spider-Man series, but honestly, it was just I was so tired after the Mark Webb films. It just felt like it was too soon to be pressing the reboot button. But I'll be damned, I love these films. What's great about Spider-Man Far From Home is that there really is a lot of focus on Peter's school life. It's about Peter Parker, not nearly as much Spider-Man, which is what works so well in the comics. That's what makes Spidey so relatable. He's got girl problems, school problems, family problems, etc., just like the rest of us. Only he's got more because he's also got supervillain problems. In case you missed it and you know very little about Spider-Man's rogue gallery, I'll spare you any spoilers, but I do gotta say it is fantastic to see a properly realized Mysterio on the big screen. It was just thrilling to see it, so if for nothing else, I will give it a hearty recommendation for that. Thank you everybody for watching. Let me know your favorite movies in the comments down below. If you like what I have to say, please consider subscribing to the channel and give this video a like. It does go a long way. And have a great rest of your day.